Hey guys, welcome to Happy Homelands, and we have a great show tonight. I think this is right up Alicia's alley. Alicia, we're going to talk about RFK Jr. and look what
Yes.
she's got. If you can't read that, that's Make America Healthy Again, and I think that is a good thing. I'm really surprised about how much pushback he's getting. He's RFK Jr. He was a Kennedy, a Democrat, and it's just really crazy how much control Big Pharma has over our politicians.
Yeah. It shows you where the money is, really. That's what this is coming down to. As he said in his little hearing today, these were like some of these people were his former friends, former coworkers, and now they've just completely turned against him on like the most ridiculous things too. Like, did you see that rant that Bernie Sanders went on about like the baby onesies
The
from the
onesie, the onesie.
the onesies?
Yeah, I know that Bernie Sanders always looks slightly crazy. Like there's a imaginary leprechauns chasing after him. We got the weirdest people in Congress. They're just insane. Eh,
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, let me see here. Just a second here. Let me get my there we go. Yeah, it's and then Elizabeth Warren, she had her total meltdown. It was really crazy. And then, oh yeah, in fact, Pam Hyde just sent us a $2 rant, and thank you guys. Just it reminds me, if you have questions or comments, we go for an hour. It's on Wednesday night, and there's super chats on YouTube, on Rumble. There's rants and power chats. There's a link below, and Stream Elements has the tip feature. And Alicia and I, we split the tips, and we do appreciate it. And I count them as tips because in the future, no tax on tips, right? So
Yes.
if they have no tax on tips, everything's going to be considered a tip. I predict that.
Yes.
So
Everything is.
I get like minimum wage, but I get like $100,000 tip every year. That'd be the way everyone would want to do it. Yeah, it's been we're gonna focus mostly. We got a lot of stuff to focus on tonight.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, someone says, "Oh, Alicia got a haircut. Did you get a haircut? I didn't even notice it."
I didn't know. I'm sorry. My baby did not want to go to sleep tonight, so I'm like my hair, I usually have it done. So yeah, I'm just messing with it. But nope, it's not a haircut. It's just this is how it naturally is. It's very wavy and kind of crazy. So I didn't have time to do it.
Yeah, and being a mother of four, that takes a lot of effort. There was that, and I saw you commented on it. I commented on it too. This lady on TikTok, and she was just saying she had her baby and she was
Mm.
exhausted, and it wasn't worth it. And I thought your response was really good because a lot of people, on our side, there's two different sides. There's some side, oh, never have kids because it'll ruin your life. But then there's the other side that tries to paint it as all rosy and easy and there's no disadvantages. And
Yeah.
I think even though you've had four, there's been times that are not as fun as others, right?
Certainly, yes. No, just my own personal experience. I had hyperemesis gravidarum with like all four of my children, but my first child especially, I was hospitalized for that. Every mom pictures her pregnancy just this like glowing magical
Right.
time, bonding with her baby. No, I was literally fighting for my life. Like puking so much that I was vomiting blood.
Oh no. Now what condition did you have or do you
It,
have?
it's called hyperemesis gravidarum, and it's a genetic condition, and it just means that essentially whenever you get pregnant, you get really, really nauseous and sick just like all the time. And I was on these drugs that they put chemo patients on. It's called Zofran or ondosterone. So it's this drug that chemo patients get to keep them from puking. And that's what I was on, and it still wasn't enough to keep me sane, because eventually, I was depressed during the pregnancy, and I was depressed afterwards, and then like during the birth, I faced obstetric abuse and have injuries that I still deal with today. And then, I got PTSD and postpartum depression after that. And that's honestly why that clip really resonated with me of that mom. She was angry.
Yes.
And that's something that happens in postpartum for many, many reasons. But I think the reason for her is that on top of everything else that she may have been dealing with, like, moms were never designed to mother alone like we do in our first world society. Like all of the luxuries and all
Right.
the wonderful things that we have, like, we're still not meant to just be by ourselves day in and day out for hours after hours upon hours with like our solitary company as a baby. And she's feeling all of the things, and I felt those same things. Didn't put them on the internet because that's
Yeah,
not
that's forever. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. But I think we need to take a middle ground when it comes to how we talk about pregnancy and postpartum. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's
Hmm.
also not all postpartum depression. We just need to come to a middle road and acknowledge, like, we as a society can do better. We as a human being ourselves can do better. We can be as healthy. We can like get ourselves as healthy as possible before being pregnant, and like research all the supplements to take afterwards, like restore our mineral balance. That's what really helped me this time. I actually didn't deal with depression for once, which was wonderful because I finally, like, I needed more zinc.
Hmm.
86% of women that face postpartum depression are actually deficient in zinc. And I wasn't deficient this time, and I didn't have depression.
Well,
So there's just a lot of things that we can do, and we're only going to arrive at that conclusion by talking about it.
yeah, and zinc, by the way, I take zinc. I find that helps me too. So that's kind of a magical vitamin, I
It
think, almost.
is.
And so you have this condition, so it's like because a lot of women they get morning sickness, but you
Mm-hmm.
had it throughout the pregnancy, so it's worse than just morning sickness, right? Because usually morning sickness is like the first trimester, right?
Yeah, so morning sickness is typically the first trimester. It's light. It keeps you, like, you'll throw up a few times.
Yeah.
Um, it keeps you from, eating your normal diet, but then
Hmm.
it starts to fade out, once you get
Hmm.
past that first trimester, because then the placenta takes over and starts making all of the
Hmm.
hormones. But for people with hyperemesis gravidarum, there's actually a neurotransmitter that it influences how we age. And the more we age, the more of this neurotransmitter that transforms later on down into a hormone that you secrete. And when you're pregnant, you secrete more of this neurotransmitter, and that's what turns it on. But the issue is what they've discovered in women with hyperemesis gravidarum is that they just don't secrete that neurotransmitter at all
Hmm.
when they are not pregnant. And then, so they're not used to this hormone in their body, and then all of a sudden they get pregnant, and all of a sudden their brain is like secreting this, and they think that it just hits the nausea part of the brain, and that's what causes the condition.
Yeah. And actually, this kind of ties into Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s thing, "Make America Healthy Again." Um, you said it sounds like you had a bad experience with the healthcare industry with your pregnancies. Is that the case? You said?
Yeah, so my first pregnancy was in Japan. So that was with the socialized medicine of the military. So I can say from firsthand experience, socialized medicine is not the way to go. I know that
Yeah.
RFK was grilled on that today. Does everybody deserve health care? It's a complicated question. It can't be given. It's not a right or no. It's not a yes or no answer. The correct answer, to get closer to the correct answer, would be that no, we should not socialize healthcare, because that's really what the question was, if we're all being honest. And after the military, everything was actually, I haven't had a bad health experience when it comes to pregnancy and postpartum after the military, because when I came back to the States, uh-oh, I I went with midwives, and then I just didn't have that issue anymore.
It's interesting. We got a rant, and this is the lady I know in real life. Hey, Sir Rams, it's Olga. Hello to your, not the other Olga I know.
Oh,
Hello to your new, not my former girlfriend. Hello to your new co-host. I agree with her having help raising babies, not just with the father, but Slavs. Olga here, her heritage is Russian, by the way, generally have their mother and mother-in-laws to help.
yeah.
And I do think that is a key thing of, having that support with, your mother-in-laws or your mothers. And everyone now is so isolated. It makes it, I think, a lot more difficult.
Yep. That's exactly it.
So a couple of things I wanted to talk about that are related to what Trump is doing. And I thought this was, and so we're going to kind of keep a health focus tonight, but we'll talk about other issues too, whatever you want to talk about. Trump signs an executive order banning trans surgery for minors in the United States. Today was a great honor to sign an executive order banning the chemical castration and medical mutilation of innocent children in America. Our nation will no longer fund, sponsor, promote, assist, or support so-called gender-affirming care, which has already ruined far too many precious lives. So, and I'm really excited about this one. Maybe because I'm older, but I would have never thought years ago that we would actually remove the breast of little girls or remove kids, chemically castrate them because their mother, and it's usually a mother, thinks they're born in the wrong body. It's just so horrific. And they try to make it sound better. They don't use the term sex change. They use gender affirming care, but it's sex change. It's horrific. And we don't even allow children to get a tattoo or drink alcohol, but we're supposed to say that, yeah, because mommy says they're actually trapped in the wrong body, they have to get this life-altering surgery. What are your thoughts about this, the whole so-called gender-affirming care?
To address your first point about it usually being women, like that's exactly right. And that's one of the things that I'm quite disgusted with is that whenever you see drag queen story time or drag brunch or whatever, it's a bunch of women and it's never the men, and the women are dragging their children to it. And it's just very sad and disgusting. And what this trans issue is really Munchausen by proxy.
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah.
And it's absolutely repulsive. I don't think Trump went far enough. I think that all of the doctors that are responsible for the butchering of the children that has taken place over the past several years, they deserve to have their licenses taken away forever. Like no chance that they can get it back, even jail time. And then I think
I was pretty harsher on Twitter what should happen to him because that's just disgusting.
it is. It's repulsive, and they deserve consequences. They need to be held accountable. And I think that the mothers deserve consequences as well. I don't think that we'll ever get there, but a girl can hope.
Yeah, it's then there's a lot of these poor kids when they get older. Obviously, they have regret because they can't fully make a decision. And this whole idea that you're born in the wrong body is so crazy. It's actually a form of Gnosticism. It's an old heresy. You are your body. You're part of your body. You're never born in the wrong body. That's a nonsensical statement. And what's really bad is they identify, this is something that's changed a lot from the 70s. When I was a kid, feminists were making a point, and they were right on this, that if a girl wants to play with trucks or something, there's nothing wrong with that. And if a boy picks up a doll, that doesn't mean he's gay or anything like that. But now with this whole trans thing, they're pretty much want to eliminate like tomboys, girls that like to hunt and fish is like, oh, well, you're actually probably a boy. We need to change you. Or a guy that may not be masculine in all pursuits. Oh, you're actually in the wrong body. It's just horrific how they ironically are pivoting from the original position that these behaviors aren't exclusively assigned to a specific gender.
It's honestly really sick. I was a tomboy growing up, and I remember 6th grade particularly being an extremely hard year for me. And because I wasn't transgender like that. Thankfully, that wasn't a thing
Mhm.
back when I was in 6th grade. But I do remember,
Otherwise, you'd be calling you Alex now, right?
yeah, right.
Mhm.
Um, but I do remember thinking that like boys have all the fun in history books, like they're the ones like I don't want to be like Betsy Ross, I want to be like George Washington. Like,
Right.
I remember thinking and feeling all of those things. I played soccer with the boys. I didn't want to go on the swings with the girls. I hated frilly dresses and anything like wearing anything girly whatsoever. And the whole point of that is that it's a phase. Like, it's not a phase, mom. Well, yes, it is. It is a phase. And we need to go back to that because it's something that's transitory. It's something that I think most girls go through. And we just need to get over it. And we just need to help them through it.
Yeah,
Not trans them, not cut off their boobs.
right. And it's amazing how this ideology is really a perversion has penetrated everywhere. Even here in Arkansas, I knew, and I will keep them confidential, but they supported the show. I met them in real life. But they actually had to talk to their girls about that because they were getting all this indoctrination. A girl that was going in junior high, you go through an awkward phase. You're not sure about boys. I mean, I was that way in junior high with girls. I think that's common. But these predators, they get a hold of you and they say, "Oh, well, you must be trapped in the wrong body. That's the reason." And it's like, no, it's just a natural phase kids go through, and there's nothing wrong with it. And you should be okay feeling that way. It doesn't mean you're in the wrong body. It's just you're not ready for that sort of thing yet. And it's such a disservice how they were able to push this radical propaganda on children. And I hate what you're in Arkansas with me. Our prior governor was Asa Hutchinson, and he was a Republican. But man, I can't stand that guy for what he did because luckily that he put in that kids could get this sex change operation. And fortunately, the legislature here overrode his veto. But he would say, well, as long as you have parental permission, because it should be up to the parents, not the government. I'm like, no, we don't allow parents to decide, I'm going to pimp out my little girl because no, there's certain things we don't allow parents to harm children. And while I'm for parental rights, you do not, as a parent, have a right to get your kid tatted up or pimp them out for sex or to sexually mutilate them. That is not a conservative position.
Yeah, no, and again, just going back to the whole Munchausen's by proxy, like that's illegal. So honestly, if Trump wanted to, well, I mean, he already did, but just that's how we could just squash this once and for all. Is essentially what they do to when they label things as like terrorist organizations. We just label trans children as Munchausen by proxy, and then this would go extinct.
Yeah, well, it is. And that's a complicated question why some women do that, where they would poison their kids and always take them to the hospital. But I think there's a degree of that. Then there's a degree, I think, of this is a popular thing. They want to be accepted because many times it's just what the coincidence. All their kids are trans. Well, what do you know?
Yeah.
And so it's obviously you're dealing with the mental illness of a mother that's abusing her children. And it's clever how the left tries to word it with propaganda because they know if you had a question, do you support children getting sex change operations? The vast majority of people would say no way. But if they phrase it, well, do you support that trans kids should get the proper medical care? People are thinking, well, yeah, if they break the leg, they should get medical care. So it's the way they use the language in an Orwellian fashion to try to confuse people. And that's why it's important never to say gender affirming care is the sex change and to really illustrate what is happening here.
If it was really, that's the whole confusing thing to me is that if it was really gender affirming, then wouldn't we be trying to affirm their natural gender? For little boys, wouldn't we be trying to like instill, appreciation of the masculine, and little girls wouldn't we be trying to make them appreciate femininity? That's
Yeah,
it's just a backwards term.
I would go further. I would ban this for everyone, not even just children. I don't
Oh
think
no,
we
it's
should allow
a
this.
mental illness. We don't allow people to cut off their limbs. We shouldn't allow them to, and like anorexic people, we put them in centers for refusing food. This is the
Right.
same thing. This is
And,
exactly the same thing.
and I saw a wild stat, like 20% of all the women, and I put them in women in quotes, in the women's prison are actually transgender women, meaning men. It's just crazy how,
Predators.
yeah, they are predators. And I think with adults, you have a couple of different categories. You have some people that have a mental illness and it's a sexual type fetish for them as a man, because I don't get it, but I guess there's a condition where you find some of these guys aren't really homosexuals. They find women sexually attractive. So they have this weird idea if they were a woman, that would be really hot.
Yeah, do they
It's
call it like autogynephilia or
yes.
something like that? Yeah,
Yeah. And I think that is
it's
a thing. And
disgusting.
you see this, we talked to this earlier, not that I really care, but lesbian bars have pretty much been put out of business because
Yeah.
I've read, because pretty much they've just been flooded by women that have penises that are, you know what I mean? Looking for real women. And it's just a perversion of how that has happened. So there's that. And then you have a category, I think, people that are just straight out perverts, meaning these are the dudes, they don't make any effort to pass. They could have a beard, bald, and they just are exposing themselves in the girls' bathroom and they're trying to hide behind the shield of, oh, I'm actually a woman. Don't be a transphobe.
Yeah. I don't know. Quite frankly, all of the groups are dangerous. And if I were to pick what is the most dangerous group, I don't think that I could, because so you have like the flat out predators, like you just said, the people that hide out in bathrooms and stuff. And then you have the ones that are mentally ill. And if you read some of their stuff that they post like in the Reddit boards, they hate women. They
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about like wanting to peel off their skin, and like they think of like all of these creative ways to like murder and abuse women. And the bottom line again is that none of these people are have all of the pieces to the puzzle in their brains, and it's very frightening.
Yeah, and I think a lot. Someone once used the expression, it got popular. Considered offensive to wear blackface, but the transgenders, in a sense, are wearing women's face, and they're
They are.
like Dylan McVaney. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Dylan Mulvaney. Mhm.
Mulvaney. He was doing, and a lot of other people like him. They really weren't acting like women. They act like a caricature of like a real slutty woman. That
It's a
I mean,
bimboification
yeah.
of womanhood,
Mhm.
and it's extremely sad. And more importantly, though, it points out that men can never truly be women, because this is the conclusion that men have arrived at, is like, oh, in order to be a woman, all it means is just acting silly and girly and boobs and long hair.
Right.
And they have no idea what it means to exist as a woman, and they never will, because they are not a woman.
Right. It's a and where they went off, and I kind of, I guess I lost the argument, but when I was young, we were always taught living things don't have a gender, we have a sex, typically male or female. Some primitive creatures like earthworms don't, but most creatures do. Gender refers to a noun. So this gender ideology, they came up with this poisonous idea that somehow this is why they would say, oh, well, you could be a biological man, but your gender is a woman or two-spirit or whatever, non-binary. But that's just a made-up thing. It doesn't
Yeah.
exist. You have the
Mhm.
physical world, and if you're born a man, you're a man. And if you pretend to be a woman, you're not a woman, or you're not a trans woman, you're a man that's pretending to be a woman. And it's sad I even have to explain this, because this should be basic stuff people always knew. And even years ago, uh, let's say in the 70s, there used to be there was a late night college that I remember going to a few times. You ever hear the movie Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Oh, yes, I do know that movie. I know that it exists. I've never seen it.
Well, it used to be on the college towns. They played at midnight. It was a silly movie. People participate, and it was about the guy. One of the lead characters was played a transvestite, and but at the point was back then that they didn't call them transgender. They call them transvestites.
Mhm.
It was they understood it. It was sort of a campy thing that gays would do in underground clubs. A certain percentage would dress up as women, but it was never thought that they're really a woman. It was just
Yeah.
I don't understand that mindset anyway. That's a whole different thing. But then now in the recent times it's merged into like this is supposed to be like a real thing. And
It's bizarre.
we got a super chat from ETNM. The father should be stopping this weak man. Yeah, I mean, that is a failing of fathers. I will 100% give you that as a man. And to be fair, some men, there's real heartbreaking stories of men that have tried, or like ex-wives from transitioning their kids. But a lot of these fathers are absent, or they're single mothers, or they just don't really care. But I couldn't imagine as a father you're allowing anyone, including your wife or the mother of your kids, to harm your children in that way. That is just really crazy.
Yeah.
All right, and we got something else here. Trump's been really good on a lot of these social issues, and let me just play a real short clip for everyone here. This is him at his rally here, and we'll listen to him. It's just like a 30-second clip, if that.
And we will get critical race theory and transgender insanity the hell out of our schools.
That got a big applause. And if you guys don't know what critical race theory is, that's the theory that white people are uniquely evil, and that they play word games that, oh no, we're not saying we need to get rid of white people, but we need to get rid of whiteness. And if they said that, like with say Jewish people, so oh no, we're not saying we need to get rid of Jews, but we need to eliminate Jewishness, that'd be considered genocidal. The idea that kids should be taught to be ashamed of themselves because of their race is just so pathetic, and I'm happy that's getting out. And I've always hated this in the schools. The idea that you have the homosexual flag up, or you're teaching queer theory, or you're teaching critical race theory. So I think this is a huge one, and it does need to be eliminated from our schools.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I remember there was that huge push, and this started maybe a decade ago at this point. And it started out slowly with like children books, like I Love My Hair, and it was about a little black girl and her the hair that they have, and like that's fine, that's innocuous. And then it turned into stuff like Black Girl Magic and Don't Touch My Hair, and then it slowly evolved into these like the terms of microaggressions and oh, it's racist to do like the innocent things that little kids do. And it evolved into just something nastier and nastier, and now we've arrived at the place where if you're white, you can't be proud of your heritage, but everybody else can. If you're white, you can't be proud of being white, but everybody else can be proud of being whatever color they are. And it's really disgusting, honestly, and it concerns me greatly for young children, because they're the ones that are so susceptible to just subtle things like that. And they're going to grow up, or they already have, some of them already have in the public school system. They've already grown up believing that they should be ashamed of their race. And I actually remember, when I was growing up in the school system, we were always taught about like Chinese culture and Chinese holidays and Mexican culture and all of these. Isn't this great? Isn't this so cool? And then when we came to like the other holidays in like history and heritage, when we were talking about heritage, there wasn't any mention of any of the like of the foreign countries that white people came from. It was always all the foreign countries that the other races come from. It was never about white heritage.
I think you're spot on, and I think it's having an effect. It's interesting. There's two ways that, let's say, white boys go down. Either they become very demoralized and they go the transgender route or homosexual, or they become very soy, or they become very radicalized, which I don't encourage, but I understand this. So if they're always taught that you're evil because you're white and you're evil because you're male, eventually they say, well, fuck you. I hate women then. And I don't advocate that position, but I can see where they get there. And it's a very destructive ideology that they've been pushed on us and our children. And the reason it originally happened is, and I remember this in the 70s, it was like, oh, well, it's just, minorities feel bad about themselves. So we have to kind of bring them up by telling them how wonderful they are, even if it's all kind of nonsense. But it's gone so far now, it's become extremely anti-white. And most of the children in America now are non-white. So this is a big issue. And it is difficult. It is difficult. And I know you have 4 kids, and that it will be something difficult to navigate.
Oh, we're homeschooling. That's how we're navigating it. We're just not even going to put them in the system.
100% support that. And by the way, I've talked to, without exception, people that are white that I've met, and this is without exception, that have been in schools that are majority non-white, they're always discriminated against and bullied without exception, and the teachers won't do anything because they're scared to intervene in that situation.
Well, they're scared to intervene, and the reason why the white kids are getting bullied in the first place is because they're the ones that have been taught to cooperate with society. And it's just not fair putting those two groups together, because you have one group that's been taught to follow the rules and has been taught that this is what is expected of you to be a contributing member of society, and then you have another group that doesn't follow the rules at all. And they take advantage of that.
And one of the reasons I think we're seeing a change is because the people are I'm not a big fan of generational warfare, okay? But a lot of the boomer type people, and again, I'm not anti-boomer. I think we all need to come together as a people. I'm not anti-women or anti-men or any of that. Because although women have issues, men have issues, different generations have issues. And when I say something, I'm doing these disclaimers because then some people get mad. I'm not saying everyone, okay? There's a lot of great boomers out there that are really based and understand everything. But in general, a lot of them, they grew up in a nation that was 90% white. They don't really understand, and they were always moved to the suburbs where it's white, and they go to areas that are all white, and they watch the movies and everything, and they have this vision that is really dated. Like little black kids in Arkansas are just trying to study, but evil white kids are bullying them. This is the way they think. I really think they believe that. So it's hard for them to understand. It's really an inverse of that. And I think as people, they're kind of getting old and dying off, people that live through it understand the reality of the situation, that it's not that way at all. In fact, it's the other way.
That's very true. And I remember coming back to the States actually, and no, this was just last year. So last year I went to a botanical garden, and we were standing in line, and literally about 95% of the people I was standing in line with were, I think they're calling like people of color now. Mm-hmm. I've never been in that situation before. It's very odd.
Yeah, and it's very different, and not everyone acts the same. And a lot of people don't understand the differences. Like you lived in Japan. The Japanese children are very disciplined and stuff. And I don't think people understand because they're not part of it. If you go into an inner city school of a school that's mostly kids of color, which a lot of them are now, It's not what you expect, where everyone's lined up and sitting in their desk doing their worksheets. It's like a zoo. It's just
Mm.
crazy, and very little learning takes place.
And that's what we're seeing now with TikTok, though. You know, TikTok, for as much as some people hate it, has given us a glimpse into what these schools are actually like.
Yeah, it really is. And that is, I think social media has done a big favor in people, because a lot of people, they've lived in a bubble and they haven't really seen what happens. Like when someone gets pushed in front of a subway in New York City, uh, they try to hide the situation, but you can almost guarantee it's never going to be a white guy that does that, but they
Yeah.
try to hide it. And I think a lot of people, and they meant well, and they grew up in an era when they went to school, it was 90% white, and they don't understand. They feel, oh, the poor blacks were just persecuted and we need to be nice. They don't understand the dynamics of it, because they get their worldview from the television and movies that's really a warped view. So I think Trump really trying to ban this critical race theory, and also all the LGBTQ agenda, because honestly, whatever you feel about that whole homosexuality issue, that's not the point of school, is to be teaching children about various sex practices. I don't understand that is. That it was always just ridiculous.
It's grooming.
It really is. And there's a difference. I have no problems when kids get older, in a biological sense, explaining to children, like, okay, we're going to have biology. I'm not a fan of sex ed, but I'm not against explaining, okay, this is how mammals have babies. You have the sperm and the egg and the fetus. I don't have a problem with explaining that. But this is a lot more than that. You're right, it is grooming, because they get into very explicit sexual practices. And
They're
I don't know if
talking
you've,
about like sodomy and stuff
yes.
now.
And
Yes.
this one guy, he was a black guy, but he was talking about reading from the curriculum, and the school board is, oh, that's vulgar. You can't say that at the school board. And he said, you're teaching my children
Yeah.
this in the
This
classroom.
is literally a book that they are being taught out of. Yeah.
And if I were to show little children this type of material, I would rightfully be arrested as a sexual predator, right? If you
Yeah.
go to a little kid and show them naked pictures of people having sex, you will be arrested. But teachers are able to do that in the school.
Mm.
And I think because of that, a lot of people that are teachers, not all the teachers, there's good teachers, so I'm always doing the qualification here. But a lot of predators are attracted to that profession, because that's where the kids are.
That's where the kids are. Yeah. So those are the statistics now, is actually like in terms of where, if your child is sexually abused, where will it happen? It's most likely to happen at a public school.
Yeah, it's even more so, there's a meme of it, it happens, the priests in the Catholic Church. And I know that has happened and that's despicable, but that's kind of overdone compared to other places.
And
It
it's
happens.
statistically, it's not true. So
Yeah, I mean, it does happen. It has
oh, it
happened.
did.
But
Yeah, it has. It has, and it does. Just as it has and it does in other places. But statistically speaking, it is most likely to happen at a public school.
it is. It is. And the other thing, I want to kind of talk a little bit about the hearing with JFK. This was kind of interesting. I'm not surprised. Charlie, they did someone saw the journalist, and you write articles and stuff. And it was funny, before even the hearings, they already had the negative headlines pre-written, hit pieces before he had even said a word. And I'm not surprised about that, because unfortunately, journalism, and I know you write and stuff, so I don't mean to offend journalists, but it's not so much anymore just going who, what, when, where, why. It's trying to support a narrative that you already know how you're going to go with.
Yeah, it's propaganda. And that came to light glaringly. It became glaringly obvious during the COVID era, just how much of this is actual propaganda. And I'm quite frankly, I'm not surprised that they already had pre-written headlines to do this, because I was talking to my husband. I was like, well, what's going on with this hearing? These old men are just saying these crazy things. Like, it just seems really weird and unimportant that we're talking about onesies And he's like, yeah, because here's the thing, and this is what he told me. Before the hearing, all of these senators have the opportunity, and they have talked to RFK beforehand and like asked him questions, and they've had discussions. And so all this hearing is just posturing. It's like a ritual stoning, really, or like a ritual henpecking.
Is theater, yeah.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous. It's a kangaroo court.
Yeah, it's a problem in general with democracy, which I'm not a huge fan of democracy, because part of the problem with democracy, at least the way it's set up, you need a lot of money to run for office. And when that's the situation, you're susceptible to taking bribes. They may not officially be bribes in a legal sense, but when you're being paid off by the Israeli lobby or by the pharmaceuticals or by the Department of these defense contractors, is pretty much a bribe, because you need that money so you get reelected and you keep your cushy job that has power. And the pharmaceutical industry has a lot of power. It is amazing how much power they have. I knew people that work in the industry, and part of it is they go to doctors and they push drugs that doctors, they can get trips to Hawaii if they push a certain drug. I don't know if you knew that, but they literally do that. So doctors
I didn't know that they got trips to Hawaii. I know that they get more money. I didn't know that they can.
Oh yeah, no, they get yeah. If we're doing a competition, if you prescribe this more than any other doctor in this area, you're going to get a trip to Hawaii. So the problem with their system is, there is that problem with the pharmaceuticals. And just as I've heard RFK Jr. I am not, just to be clear, I'm not an anti-medicine or science or anything like that. And we saw this with COVID, and it really bothered me when they use terms like settled science, or you can't contradict the science. I'm like, well, science. Yeah, trust the science. In this house, we believe in science. I'm like, well, that's a cultish view, because science, by the way, is a methodology. It's not a thing. And it's a methodology where you do trial and error and you look at the evidence and you question things. And so there's never a settled science. You're always open to looking at the data. And it's amazing how these people just become, it's settled. It can never be questioned. And we saw this with COVID, and I've told people I got more, I'm a controversial guy, but I got more strikes and trouble with YouTube about COVID than any other subject. And now I've been proved right? Yeah. Like, I got a strike for saying I think probably the COVID virus came from the Wuhan lab. Years ago, I got a strike on that. And it turns out now that's the official government position.
Yeah.
So it's just horrible how that's... and then they try to make it, at least for some people, a straw man that, that means you're against all medicine. No, I'm not. I think there's a lot of good medicines. There's good vaccines.
And that's what they were doing to Kennedy today, too.
Yes. They try to straw man it. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. And
you're against vaccines because you were concerned about the adjuvants that vaccines use. And he said 50 times, no, I'm not anti-vaccine. I just want there to be studies.
Yeah, and my position, maybe I could still say this now on YouTube. I think so, because it's all gone away and everyone's trying to pretend that episode never happened. But my whole point at the time was, when you had to look at whenever you get a new vaccine, you have to look, there's always going to be a certain amount of risk. So you got to do an analysis. Is it worth, taking this risk? And that's a very personal decision based on the situation. And in the case of COVID, we knew primarily the people, primarily it was some older people, if you had comorbidities, that died of COVID. If you're a young person, you probably would not die of COVID. That's just the facts. And then you have to ask, for those people, is it really worth getting a vaccine versus long-term potential effects? And I was never the guy that said that vaccine put secret machines in you or anything like
the
that.
Nanobots.
Yeah, I was never that. I put that kind of the flat earth type people. But there is a and I did this. I had to do, just as a disclaimer, I never took the vaccine. And
Me there, 15%
I know I felt I was
club.
like alone a lot of times, but I was like, no, I'm not, because I'm pretty healthy, and I don't even know if I got COVID. I probably did. I've had colds during the time. It's a coronavirus, right? It's a cold.
Yeah.
And I said, in my situation, it's probably not that risky. And the vaccine, I never said that if you took it, you're going to drop dead right away, but you just don't know the long-term consequences of this. And that was my position, but you couldn't say that position on YouTube, because they got into this cult view of what science is,
Yeah.
and that's not science. It's
It's
just so crazy.
anti-science.
YouTube was banning doctors.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
Yeah,
crazy.
Dr. Peter McCullough.
Yeah, it was just nuts, and it was just an insane cult-like thing. And what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is saying, I think there's a lot of truth to this. That and he made a statement which I really liked. He said, "Hey, I'm not trying to tell people what they have to do." He said, and he joked about it. I don't know if you saw the clip. He said, "I'm not trying to stop you from eating McDonald's and a Diet Coke, because guess what? My boss loves that. If you want to do that, that's up to you. But I think we should give you the proper understanding of the risk of eating poorly does. I'm not trying to ban these things." And I really like that, because I'm not here to try to force people what they should do or what they should eat. That needs to be a real individual choice. And he said that, and it kind of resonated with me.
That is a really good quote. I hadn't gotten to that one yet. And I completely agree. There's just so much, because we have big food and big pharma. There's so much information that is censored and intentionally hidden. It's said to be, even if it's true, they're like, oh no, it's false, that's not right. And you really have to dig and search for the correct answers to these things, because that's how powerful these companies are. And my favorite quote by RFK was his promise to be transparent with the American people, because that's what we need. We need the honesty, saying that, like, yeah, you can have McDonald's, but it's going to kill your gut bacteria. It's going to predispose you to diabetes. It's going to harden your arteries. It's going, all of this stuff. And we need the transparency again with pesticides. He's already done battle against Monsanto. This is exactly the guy that we need in this position. And that's why everybody is railing so hard against him, not because he's the kook that they're trying to make him out to be, but because he's a legitimate threat.
Yeah, I think so. And I like how he's independent that way. And we need a government that is not controlled by these industries. And I think Trump he's exceeded my expectations. He's going all out, by the way, for this. Oh, and by the way, he didn't, when he paused all government spending, guys, people heard, there's a rumor that, he reversed that. No, he didn't reverse it. They clarified that. There was just a lot of fake news that included Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. It didn't include those.
Did we send the $50 million worth of condoms to Congress?
Yes, let's talk that. A perfect tie-in to that. And let me just show you guys
Did the Gazan citizens get their condoms?
This is and I saw you did a tweet on this. We'll show your tweet, and I did it too. I asked AI to figure this out.
Oh, did you?
Why is America spending any amount of money at all on sending condoms out to foreign nations? $50 million of condoms to Gaza, and that is just honestly really insane. And let me just show everyone your tweet on that, because I thought you had a good perspective of this. Let me bring this up so people can see this. I want you to all know that I'm a very serious journalist. I'm very reverent, very respectful. That's why when I learned $50 million worth of America's singles were being used to ship condoms to Gaza, I had to find out exactly how many condoms that would be. And yeah, I did the exact same thing. I love AI, by the way.
Yes.
And so it is just, you would be able to buy 167 million condoms. So
Oh, but
Trump,
so it breaks down more. So I had it go. It's actually like a thread if you wanted to expand it, but it essentially it comes out to, because of like shipping costs, I had AI
yeah.
do shipping. It comes out to 208 condoms per adult in Gaza. Now
Wow.
I didn't calculate in goats because I thought that would be in bad taste to the victims of
Yeah,
all of
that's,
this. But so essentially, yes, it's 208 condoms per household, and because extramarital and premarital sex is haram, and 99, literally, I looked this up, 99% of the population in Gaza is Sunni Muslim.
mm-hmm.
Premarital and extramarital sex is haram, so each household is actually getting 416 condoms. So that gives us sex every single day plus 50 extra bonus times. It's just
Yeah,
nobody needs that much condoms.
no, this is crazy. Trump said they were actually using these to make bombs or something. I don't know.
I did
But
see that. Yes.
the
They
whole
actually
thing
are.
is just ridiculous that we're spending money. This is just an example of our government wastes money on this. And I don't know their sexual practices, but I don't even know if they would use condoms. And who thought this was a good idea to send this all out there? And maybe I'm cynical. I'm thinking someone's probably making money on this,
Oh
right?
no, it's like I think this is just I think that the average American should be outraged by this because this is how stupid they think we are. Let's send $50 million worth of condoms to Gaza. And we can put this out there as a legitimate thing because that's how stupid we think that our citizens are, that they'll believe it, that they'll buy it, that we're sending $50 million worth of condoms. It's outrageous for multiple reasons.
Yeah, it's well, we shouldn't be involved with this anyway. This is,
No,
I
we
mean, like you
shouldn't.
said, there's multiple reasons we shouldn't be. My view is very similar to George Washington's view that we shouldn't be involved with these entangling alliances. And I don't think it's our job as Americans to try to push our views or how things should be done on other people, whether it's in Afghanistan or in Gaza or elsewhere. It's not our business. We need to focus on our country. It doesn't mean we wish people well. And if private citizens, they want to take a suitcase of condoms to Gaza, well, God bless you. But we shouldn't be having the taxpayers fund this type of thing. It is just so crazy how this is what is happening. And yeah.
My
Before
parting blessing for all of our listeners tonight is that you will enjoy as frequent sex as the Gaza citizens are about to have, apparently.
yeah, that is that is really weird how the whole the whole condom thing in America became like a very almost like a religious thing because it can help prevent STDs and supposedly AIDS and pregnancy and all that. But it's I don't know. It's how they push that is just ridiculous. Like, oh, we got to throw condoms on these people.
Yeah. That's
And
weird.
all right, and we'll wrap up here because I know try to end in an hour. And I wanted to show this other thing we'll finish. This is kind of funny, but hopefully we'll stop this sort of nonsense. Lyft.
He told her
Here we go. Let's watch
there's
this.
not enough room in his car.
The kicker part was when he started to talk about his tires. I feel like that was a slap in the face. That was like my tires, like.
The driver said his tires could not handle her weight.
She weighs 500 pounds, by the way.
Every big person you turn down because they can't fit in your car?
Yeah, because they need to order the Uber XL.
No, I don't don't never have to order Uber XL.
He apologized, canceled the ride, and left her there. The rapper says she's pretty tough.
Rapper. It's like they're all rappers.
Banding tells us she was just trying to get to a Detroit Lions watch party this month when her Lyft rolled up.
As I'm walking, I see him like making faces or whatever. I'm like, oh man.
She already knew.
I can fit in this car.
But believe me, you can.
Yes, I can.
Believe me.
He told her there's not enough room in his car.
The kicker part was when he started to talk about his tires. You know, I feel like that was a slap in the face. That was like my tires, you know, like.
The driver said his tires could not handle her weight.
For every big person you turn down because they can't fit in your car?
Yeah, because they need to order the Uber XL.
You know what? I don't never have to order Uber XL.
He apologized, canceled the ride, and left her there. The rapper says she's pretty tough. Dank DeMoss, as she's known at the mic, is crushed by the whole situation.
I just want them to know, like, it really hurt my feelings.
It looks like a Lyft might be hurting pretty soon, too.
I knew it was illegal and I knew that it was wrong.
Her attorneys, John Marco and Zach Runyon, say weight is a protected characteristic in Michigan by law.
It would be no different than a driver pulling up and saying, you know, I don't want to have black people in my car, or I don't want to have Christians in my car or Muslims in my car. It's the same. Under the law, it's the same.
The lawsuit is filed. Since she posted the encounter on social media, other full-figured folks have reached out saying the same thing happened to them. Alicia Blanding tells us she...
Well, a couple of things. I'll get your opinion, Alicia. But first of all, I'm for freedom. I don't really care if people don't want to pick up black people. That's fine. But there's certain things when you get too fat, you can't really fit in the car. And you know, amusement parks had this problem. You know, you have the lap bar and people are too fat to get in. Well, that's on you. Or on a plane, I once flew to Europe. It was a miserable trip, and this lady, she was so fat, her fat was always spilling into my seat, touching me. Right? That's not what I wanted to feel for like how many hours that is. And it's just crazy, and I hope we can get away from this. What are your thoughts on this here?
Yeah, so first of all of the driver's complaints were completely legitimate. That woman is not calling a Lyft. She's calling a Lyft because she can't drive, because she cannot fit behind a steering wheel. Her stomach is too big. Her arms are too pudgy. She physically is not able to drive a car. That is why she is relying on these car services. First of all,
the question is, should she sue all the car manufacturers for not making special cars?
Well,
that's
where the logic train ends. That's the terminus of this argument, is the fact that she actually, it's not the Lyft's fault at all. It's not the driver's fault, because the driver was accurate. She physically cannot fit in a car. I know that my husband has this small pickup truck, and we go get dirt sometimes because I have these gardens. Whenever they're loading up the bed of his truck with dirt, the whole car, the whole cab, like, moves. And whenever you go over bumps or turns, you can feel it. You can feel the weight shift. And that tiny car that she was filming is not designed to house 500 pounds. It's just not. And so to be offended that he rightly claimed his tires would be damaged, and it's not so much his tires, it's his suspension. Let's be real here. I'm sorry, Cupcake. Like, it hurt your feelings. Oh, well, he would have had to buy a new car after towing you around.
Yeah, I know some Asian countries were thinking about charging people based on their weight. I used to work in the airline industry, and that is a factor.
We have to pay bag weight. Why shouldn't fat people have to pay extra if they want to fly on a plane?
I 100% agree, and it's just so weird that it should never be a lawsuit. It should be like, no, it's just ridiculous. You're just too fat.
I hope it gets thrown out before it ever gets to court, because that driver had every right to protect his property. That's what he was doing.
the problem is, here's a little a dirty little secret I've always told people. Like, people that rob liquor stores are really stupid because they carry like $50 in there and you face 20 years in prison. If you want to get a lot of money, all you have to do is go to Walmart and fake a fall. And even though they have you on video, they probably are scared that you may win a lawsuit and they will settle for you for quite a bit of money. So they probably will settle with her, which just sucks. And we need to
King of the
stop this.
Hill.
Was that a King of the Hill episode?
Well, so there's like a character named Lucky, and he's like the stupidest guy, but he's like, I don't know how much money he won a lawsuit against Walmart because apparently he slipped in. He said he slipped in pee, but he calls it PB.
Yeah.
And so it's a real thing apparently.
Yeah, it's really crazy, just this, and there's like no accountability, and we need to get beyond that it's there's certain things. If you're too fat, well, first of all, I believe in liberty. People shouldn't be forced to take you anyway.
Yeah.
And it's just ridiculous. And and she's a rapper. Yeah, right. What does that mean? They all are. So it's pretty crazy. Let's see here. Oh, we're just at the top of the hour. Well, just finish up. It's been a fun show. Thank you guys.
Yes.
And I appreciate you all being here. Thank you, Alicia. It's been good.
Yes.
And we'll talk to you guys later.
All
Bye
right.
bye.
Thank you.